The U.S. government is supposed to hold about 328,000 Bitcoin. And in the executive order that created the strategic Bitcoin reserve, they said they would never sell their Bitcoin. But we have some interesting data showing that yesterday they were moving thousands of Bitcoin to Coinbase yesterday. And it was basically at the exact same time that we saw Bitcoin crash from $64K to $61,000. All I'm saying, guys, is the timing of all of this is certainly coincidental at the very least. So let's dive into this because there is a lot to unpack here. This was first posted from what I could tell on Arkham Intelligence. If you don't know, it's on-chain analytics, checking everything that's going on chain. They're tracking wallets. I wouldn't say it's necessarily like chain analysis, but there are some addresses that we do know that are linked to various entities. And obviously, if you know anything about the Bitcoin network, you can track along what these addresses are doing, who these people are and where they're sending their coin and what exactly is going on. So here's the first one. And this one might be maybe the most interesting for a lot of you guys that have been watching the show with us, following along on all the news. If you are very vocal and active in the quote Bitcoin community on Twitter, here's the first post. Arkham, the U.S. government just moved $8.8 million of Bitcoin to Coinbase Prime. The Coinbase Prime deposited that received this Bitcoin 1 hour ago. Again, 1 hour ago, timing 1:35 p.m. yesterday. Also seized Bitcoin from the founders of Samurai Wallet in the past. So is the U.S. government selling the Bitcoin? That is the big kind of contention. Sani also, if you follow Sani, he also does on-chain metrics. He reported pretty much the same thing. A 926 Bitcoin transaction from the U.S. government to Coinbase Prime and unknown entities have been broadcasted to block 957,889. And then we saw Galaxy Research later on in the day. This was at 2:30, basically say U.S. government spend 2,874.9 Bitcoin or around $183.28 million moved to Coinbase Prime in blocks 957,893 and 957,894. They dropped the mempools.space in the transactions. And then Alex Thorne of Galaxy Research followed it up with almost 4,000 Bitcoin sent today so far by the U.S. government to Coinbase Prime. So all we know for certain, this is all we know for a fact here, is that 4,000 Bitcoin associated with the U.S. government was moved to Coinbase Prime. Now, we did see some interesting stuff go on with the price, and maybe I'll go into that in a little bit. But let's go into actually, they also moved some shitcoins. So a total of $280 million of crypto moved to Coinbase Prime, some Bitcoin, some ETH, et cetera, et cetera. So what exactly is going on, right? Well, Yahoo did an article on this, and there was one thing that did stick out to me in this article that I think maybe I had forgotten and most of us have forgotten. Here's the headline, of course. U.S. government moves 8.8 million of Bitcoin that Trump said would never sell. Obviously, this was reported earlier. Later on in the day, we learned they moved what was it, about 200 million Bitcoin? So a lot of Bitcoin is moving to Coinbase Prime. Now, obviously, we all know, what did Trump say with the executive order to create the strategic Bitcoin reserve? Hey, we are never going to sell the Bitcoin. We have been watching what's going on with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. From what we can all tell, again, we haven't been able to audit these reserves, but from what everyone can tell, the U.S. government holds about, and let me get the exact number here, 328,372 Bitcoin, roughly around $20 billion of Bitcoin. And of course, they say they're never going to sell that Bitcoin. And most of this Bitcoin was acquired through asset forfeitures. It was actually interesting. The big movements of this coin were actually from someone that I believe was like, how far am I? Someone that was believed, or rather that got in trouble for like selling Xanax on a dark market, and another one for like laundering money for a cartel or something like that. So these guys aren't, in fact, at least the coin that was attributed to this move, at least the majority of that coin It's not, you know, they're criminals. So obviously the U.S. government's going to take that Bitcoin. But point remains the same. We don't know for a fact how much Bitcoin the U.S. government does hold. I mean, from all the on-chain metrics, we can kind of get an idea of how much Bitcoin they hold. But again, unaudited Bitcoin holdings around 328,000 Bitcoin. Now, we all know at least the official narrative is all the Bitcoin's coming in, it's not going to get sold. Though we have heard a couple of stories recently, in particular from the U.S. Marshals, of them messing up the custody of the Bitcoin, and some of that Bitcoin and shitcoins are actually being sold because they weren't able to actually custody the coin correctly, which does kind of go back around, before I extend a little more on this article, which really does go full circle on the actual latest news we heard about the strategic Bitcoin reserve, which was they still plan to move on the strategic Bitcoin reserve, potentially buy some more Bitcoin. But there's a war right now between the U.S. Treasury and the Commerce Department. They are infighting on who actually can control the strategic Bitcoin reserve, who is legally allowed to not only hold that Bitcoin or custody that Bitcoin, but also add to the strategic Bitcoin reserve. But all we do know for a fact that the only budget neutral way that the government, U.S. government here, has been able to add to the Bitcoin has been through assets forfeiture. And on that terms, the U.S. is still leading in the strategic Bitcoin reserve with about 328 and some change, 328,000 Bitcoin and some change. Well, there was a little article, or a little paragraph in here that did kind of catch my attention. Obviously, Trump's March 2025 executive order creating the strategic Bitcoin reserve said the government is not going to sell that Bitcoin. Again, there's been a lot of issues, governments messing up. Like, are we surprised, right? Particularly with the U.S. Marshals. Now we're hearing the Treasury and the Commerce are fighting over who can control it. So as of now, like, nothing's really happened. All right. Yeah. More Bitcoin is coming in, and they are at least rhetorically not selling the Bitcoin, but we have seen Bitcoin go to Coinbase, and I'll expand on maybe what could possibly be happening on that. But this is the part that really stuck out to me. It goes, the reserve exists only by executive order and not by law. Of course, there's been a lot of push towards creating the strategic Bitcoin reserve and codifying it into law, particularly, as this article points out, the Modern Reserve, or American Reserve Modernization Act, introduced in May, would codify it and impose a 20-year mandatory holding period. It is not passed. Coinbase reported this month that federal agencies are still, of course, as I just mentioned, working out how the reserve actually operates. Dude, it's almost beautiful. Actually, side quest before I get into a little more of this. It's honestly beautiful. I've been saying for a little bit that if the U.S. government went out, made such a huge splash and said, hey, we are going to be the Bitcoin capital of the world. We are going to have the best rules for Bitcoiners. We are going to buy Bitcoin. And then they fumble that bag and nothing actually happens. On the one hand, from like an American-centric, maybe in a more patriotic perspective, or rather, maybe as just an individual that wants to live in a country that treats Bitcoin and Bitcoiners better, you're like, dude, this is like the biggest fumble ever. How do you come out here, talk a big game about Bitcoin, and then just, metaphorically shoot yourself in the foot? And it's like, man, like chef's kiss, really, when you think about it, because like, if the state is starting to get into Bitcoin and they just blow themselves up like this all the time, it's just like, man, the incompetence of this giant bureaucratic state it constantly keeps put in the limelight. And it almost makes you feel good, especially if you're more of a hardcore separation of money and state type Bitcoiner. You're like, man, honestly, it's awesome. Like, the state tries to get involved with Bitcoin. They absolutely shoot themselves in the foot. They can't even custody the Bitcoin. They're losing the Bitcoin. They're never ever able to get Bitcoin through the bureaucratic process to get more buys of this Bitcoin. It's like, it's kind of a libertarian wet dream in at least like a Bitcoiner's libertarian wet dream in the grand the grand context of this is like, oh man, it's so beautiful. They get into Bitcoin, just shows they're incompetent. They can't even custody the Bitcoin. It gets stuck in bureaucracy where they can't even buy more Bitcoin. It's kind of poetic, all right. It's kind of making me warm and fuzzy inside, and it's not just because I'm hungry this morning. But here's really where I guess you can probably put some nuance into this. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the U.S. government sold Bitcoin by sending it into Coinbase Prime, which is, of course, here. A transfer to a prime broker is not necessarily a sell. The seized coin still moving through forfeiture proceedings may be handled separately from the reserve entirely, hence why it's getting moved to Coinbase Prime. It's not jumbled up with the rest of the reserves. Maybe it could be some new form of custody. We really have no insight on what they're doing. All we can see is that the coin is moving to Coinbase. But of course, moving Bitcoin to an exchange is basically the first step of selling Bitcoin, right? It's like, why would you do this? There's maybe the less cynical view is, oh, well, Coinbase is one of the biggest custody platforms in the world, so maybe they're just moving that Bitcoin to have Coinbase Prime custody of their Bitcoin, which we've seen with a lot of big Bitcoin companies. In particular, probably Strategy is the one that most people talk about, but a lot of companies use Coinbase Prime for their custody solutions. Especially in the context of what we heard last week, that the U.S. government still doesn't know how they're going to custody their coin. I mean, we've been following along on this saga for months now, where the U.S. Marshals had some Bitcoin custodied. They messed up. The U.S. government official reserve is custodied somewhere. I would probably speculate that it is at Coinbase. And now we're seeing more coin that just got how do I put this nicely? Taken from criminals, set to Coinbase. It could simply be it was just moving to their Coinbase Prime custody, and we all, again, don't know how they are custodying their Bitcoin. But when you see the Bitcoin move to Coinbase, for most intents and purposes, at least in engagement on Twitter, everyone's like, yeah, they're selling that Bitcoin, right? Like, that's a sell. Now, I did say there is some suspicious timing here in terms of the price action going on with Bitcoin yesterday. So we're not chart buying, okay, but it is pretty interesting. So the official time, at least from Arkham, was 1:35, and they said that Bitcoin was received an hour ago. So we'll go around noon as the time that Coinbase reached or received that Bitcoin. Here is yesterday. Obviously, they didn't start the dump, but if you do look around here, 12 and 1, you could make, if you wanted to reach a little bit, you could make the case that they did, in fact, add to the selling. Again, we have no official, confirmation that they did sell that Bitcoin, but the timing is suspicious, right? Now, really, oh, wait, sorry, I didn't pull it up for you guys. All right, so here is the, midnight starting to dump, 12 hours later at noonish, or even, 2, 3 o'clock. Who knows when it got processed? We saw it go even lower. I don't know. I mean, you could make the case that the U.S. government is still continuously trying to suppress the price so that they can buy better. I mean, I love that theory. It is probably a tinfoil hat conspiracy theory. But the timing of all this is suspicious. Coincidental is the word that I would like to use, that these incidents all coincided at the same time. Now, again, what is it? Causation does not equal correlation, or whatever. You guys know what I'm saying. I think it's causation does not equal correlation. It sounds wrong to me right now. But it is interesting. It is interesting nonetheless. Obviously, as we've seen, and I think anyone that even loosely follows along on politics understands that the U.S. government is not a cohesive entity. Yes, Trump is the president. Yes, Trump, you could argue, is leading the federal government. As we've seen amongst a lot of not only just states, but different ABC bureaucracies, just because Trump said something doesn't necessarily mean that that is what's going to happen. There are factions within the U.S. government that are still, I would say, trying to sabotage Trump's administration, presidency. Basically, whatever Trump says, they will do the opposite. But since we cannot verify and audit how much Bitcoin the U.S. government actually has, we are literally working on a trust me bro model right now where, look, the U.S. government says, hey, we have this much Bitcoin. And then they're like, trust me, bro. We really don't know how much Bitcoin actually is there. Yes, we can follow along on the on-chain metrics. You can see a lot of the addresses kind of coming together. And I think the numbers that I've seen from the likes of Sani and Arkham, et cetera, is that they do, in fact, have on-chain 300,000 plus coins. But since we don't have an official proof of reserves here from the U.S. government or, you know, proof of holdings from the U.S. government, we really are still working on a, hey, this is what they say they have. We're going to have to trust them. But at the same time, the U.S. government as an entity, of course, it's being run by someone different than Biden now with Trump. They don't really have a good track record with their Bitcoin. They have constantly sold Bitcoin. I believe the number was like they sold $17 billion of Bitcoin, at least in today's numbers. So would we be surprised if, in fact, they are selling a little bit of Bitcoin? I mean, I wouldn't really be that surprised. Would I even be that mad? Personally, not really, especially when we're kind of close to the bottom. If they want to dump Bitcoin at the bottom of the bear market, by all means, go for it. I really do like the separation of money and state. This is the separation of money and state. If it does come out that we can confirm that the U.S. government was dumping Bitcoin, or going even further, remember the rumors that when Biden left the White House before Trump got in, that the Biden administration had sold a bunch of the Bitcoin, basically almost neutered the entire strategic Bitcoin reserve. Would I really even be mad about that? Like, not at all. I do love the idea of separating money from state. I also do believe in, hey, look, you know, I'm an adult. I still have a couple brain cells where I can sort of think critically. You know, I can, on the one hand, want to see the separation of money and state, and on the other hand, understand that every nation, state, individual, corporation will also hold Bitcoin. So it's one of these things where, like, hey, I may not like it, but if they want to hold Bitcoin, they're going to hold Bitcoin, and there's nothing that I can do. Now, it does get a little murky, and obviously nuance isn't something that gets lost on the internet all the time. But I don't think those are two ideas that are opposing per se. Like, I can be pro-Bitcoin, pro-separation of money and state, and still acknowledge that governments will be using Bitcoin. And I know a lot of people go, well, like, I thought we were separating money from state, and you're cheering on the government buying Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin. And it's like, well, I mean, everyone's going to hold Bitcoin. Every entity is going to hold Bitcoin. But the real separation of money and state is not necessarily that governments won't hold Bitcoin. It's that the government doesn't have the power to create money out of thin air. That is the separation of money and state. If a government wants to use Bitcoin, something that they can't debase, a politically neutral money, does that necessarily negate the idea of separating money from state? It's like, I think a lot of people think that we are going to move into a world where there is no governments. I don't think that's ever going to be the case. And further, I don't think for the next decade, at least, we are going to see a world where, you know, hyper-Bitcoinization happens and we don't use dollars or some other fiat currency. I think we are in a bimetallism era right now where you use dollars to spend, you use Bitcoin to hold. And at a certain point, we will see more people using Bitcoin to, you know, consume, to buy things, to use as their money. But in the meantime, we're going to have dollars. Now, if we want to wrestle away as much power from this gigantic leviathan that is the state and state power, well, where do they get their funding from? Where do they get their power from? Where do they get all the money for everything? They literally create it out of thin air. So maybe we do get to a point where we get small government eventually. But in the meantime, what we really want is to take away the power of the money printer. And so this is why in my head, I can hold these two thoughts together and be like, yeah, well, you know, do I want the U.S. to have favorable laws for Bitcoin? Yes, I'm an American. And I think you should too. If you live in any country around the world, I think you should want favorable laws for Bitcoin in your country. In particular, obviously, like, just eliminate capital gains, and I'd be cool with that. Like, everything else is moot to me, but a boy can wish. And also understand that, yeah, they're going to be holding Bitcoin. It's interesting, and maybe some more hardcore Bitcoiners were saying this in regards to El Salvador. It's like no one really made a fuss about El Salvador buying Bitcoin in the sense of like, oh, I thought we were trying to separate money from state. It's like, no, we have a country stacking Bitcoin. It's just interesting when we talk about the U.S. that's usually the main detraction that we hear from them. That, oh, hey, you know, they're the world reserve currency. I thought we're trying to eliminate all their power. Like, we shouldn't be cheering them on buying Bitcoin. It's like, look, if they want to buy Bitcoin, there's nothing I can do to stop them. If they want to acquire Bitcoin, there's nothing I can do to stop them. And in fact, I would probably like them to acquire Bitcoin because then incentives would probably align a little better than if they fought us. Maybe we could get favorable laws in the U.S. But anyways, back to the story. Off my tangent here. You come to this show to hear my takes on what exactly is going on here. I don't know why. No, you come because it's entertaining. It's financial entertainment. What do I think is going on here? Personally, even though it is suspicious that we're seeing Bitcoin hit Coinbase, I think we don't have, well, first of all, before I go to what I think, it is a fact that we don't have any clarity, pun intended, on how the strategic Bitcoin reserve is actually being held. I would probably speculate that the U.S. government is using a lot of the Coinbase Prime custody features for the newer Bitcoin. What are they doing with all the Bitcoin that they currently had for a long time? Apparently, it was just sitting at the U.S. Marshals on like a ledger. So hopefully, we do get an update on what is actually going on with the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Under what jurisdiction does this lay out? Is it the Treasury Department or is it the Commerce Department? Personally, I would much prefer it to be under Scott Bessent than Howard Lutnick. I mean, Lutnick's a Bitcoiner, etc., but like Scott Bessent's kind of a badass. So I think, you know, I think under the Treasury Department, and just thinking of this like from a more of a political level, I think it just makes more sense to fall under the Treasury Department. You know, the ones that hold the Treasury. Wouldn't they just hold Bitcoin too? Though, of course, in the Constitution, it does say something about only coin can be money, you know, gold, silver. So like there are some legalities here, but to me, it just makes sense. The U.S. Treasury Department, you know, the one that controls the U.S.'s money should probably be the one controlling the Bitcoin that we own. I don't know. Maybe I'm a simpleton, but I'm pretty sure this is just them figuring out some form of custody. They might just be sending it to Coinbase Prime addresses so that they can figure out the custody aspect of this. Maybe they trust Coinbase more than, you know, the U.S. Marshals at this point. But the timing is interesting. We get the news of the U.S. government moving Bitcoin to Coinbase, and on the very same day, we see the Bitcoin price start dumping. Hey, man, maybe Trump wants to give you a better price on the Bitcoin. Who really knows? Who really knows at this point? But it is news. We are seeing on-chain movement. And also, actually, side post here. I saw on Twitter this morning that Coinbase was reporting that Patrick Witt, who is the current head of digital assets, apparently he's like going to the military now. So here, let me pull that up. So if we do want an update on Clarity Act and what's going to happen with the strategic Bitcoin reserve or digital assets in general, let me find this tweet this morning that I saw. I was like, oh wow, this does not look good for the here we go. This does not look good for the Clarity Act nor the strategic Bitcoin reserve. So Coinbase or CoinDesk tweets, the White House lead Clarity Act negotiator Patrick Witt departs next Friday. So I don't know if that's this Friday or next Friday. For military training, leaving Deputy Director Harry Jung to manage the final push for a Senate floor vote expected around July 20th. So I'm guessing maybe it's this Friday. I'm guessing this Friday, Patrick Witt, who is like the head digital asset, the lead, or what's it, executive lead of the digital asset strategic Bitcoin reserve, whatever I don't even know what they're calling it now. I guess he's out Friday. So literally at the 1 yard line, like they're passing the baton, and now someone else is going to lead this. Man, all the optimism on the Clarity Act is probably cooked at this point. Now, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay. Anyways, moving on for the show. I saw this, like, it was on Twitter, but it's a TikTok, and it's just like, it's such Bitcoin coded. It's talking about like the Federal Reserve creation and financial literacy, and just how the education system has been designed to basically make you a wage cut forever. And I'm like, I got to put it on because I feel the same way, and I think more people need to see this. And then for the news, we got the inflation numbers in. They're lower than expected. And at the same time, the U.S. national debt is going crazy. And at the same time, it looks like Congress is going to eliminate the penny. I don't know. Maybe inflation is getting kind of crazy. Maybe it's not so hot out there. And then, guys, for the culture, this one's just going to be a little fun, all right? You guys know how much I love the 1 minute chart. Well, someone vibe coded like the dopest website. So we're just going to mess around with it. We're just going to watch it. It's going to be a mellow day here. I'm alone. It's going to be a chill day here on Simply Bitcoin. So first commercial break, and I'll be right back. Here's the part that nobody says out loud. Buying Bitcoin on an exchange and leaving it there isn't buying Bitcoin. It's buying an IOU. And the last decade has been a masterclass in what happens when those exchanges don't deliver on their promises.
Bitcoin Well is a self-custody Bitcoin platform. That means that when you buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet. You actually own it from the very first transaction. They're available both in the United States and Canada. Pricing is transparent, straightforward, and no nonsense. And if you're buying a larger amount of Bitcoin, Bitcoin Well Infinite gives you concierge-level support through a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, premium help for when it actually matters.
You can also stack a little extra through the referral and wishing well rewards. A nice bonus on top of the owning your own Bitcoin thing. So go to bitcoinwell.com/simply and sign up for the Bitcoin Well portal today and buy Bitcoin you actually own. Paper burns, paper floods, paper fades. If your seed phrase is written on paper, it's not really backed up. It's waiting to disappear. Stampseed's DIY kit lets you hammer your seed words directly into commercial grade titanium. Fireproof, crush-proof, waterproof, and permanent. Once your words are in the metal, they aren't going anywhere. Use code SIMPLY at stampseed.com for 15% off anything in the store. That's stampseed.com, code SIMPLY. All right, guys, before I move on, though, I do want to talk about a paid ad by our friends over at Rumble Wallet. You guys know what we're all about here. We're all about you controlling your own money and freedom of speech. And the Rumble Wallet is the best of both worlds. Obviously, we love Rumble. It is the freedom of speech streaming platform. And now they have launched the Rumble Wallet, which is a non-custodial Bitcoin wallet. And I actually just learned today you can buy Bitcoin in there with a credit card, guys. Yo, not financial advice. I'm not going to say anymore. All right. So look, Bitcoin is changing everything. And they're literally paying you right now $10 just to download their wallet, test it out, see if you like it, see how easy it is. You know, download it from your app store on your Android or your Apple, and you're ready to go. Send Bitcoin to your favorite creators on Rumble. It's non-custodial. You can literally just use it as a Bitcoin wallet. So go use the promo code SIMPLY10, and you get $10 just to use the wallet. I repeat, SIMPLY10, and they are giving you money just to download the wallet. So shouts out to the guys over at Rumble Wallet, or the men and women over at Rumble Wallet. Huge fans of Rumble. Definitely go check this out. All right. On that note, guys, friends, foes, what's going on with the price of Bitcoin? Did we just bottom? Guys and gals and guys, mainly guys and some gals. Are we bottoming? 64,440. I think it got up to like 65 this morning. The discount from all-time high, 48.9. We maybe, just hopefully, no longer a solid 50% discount. It's just 48.9. Okay. So, hey, we're inching back. Though I did see Ben Cohen say it's gonna pump, and then in September it's gonna go back down to lows. He's still, he's still on the 35K by October BS, which I just don't think is going to happen. Maybe he's right in terms of, because I have been thinking about this, of where the price is right now and what we're going to do. I don't think we're going to just, rip from here. I think we might have a little more chop in us, though I am wholly convinced that the wick off accumulation is playing out exactly as designed, exactly as it was written, 100 years ago. Go down, you go up, you chop a little bit, pull back, go up again, chop a little bit. So, ow. We might have, dude. Me and Luke were getting bullish this morning. We're like, dude, did we bottom? Anyways, the market cap is currently 1.29 trillion, and the block height is 958,035. I repeat, 958,035. All right, guys. So I saw this guy. I actually think I might have seen him before. This popped up on my Twitter, and he actually did another one. He did another one about like Alexander Hamilton and dang, I'm blanking on it. Was it Hamilton versus Jefferson? I forget what the video was. But anyways, I saw this video, and it's one of those things where, like, look, I still use Instagram for brain rot. I know friends that use TikTok for brain rot. And I'm not going to do like the boomer, don't watch brain rot. You should watch this type of content, because like brain rot it's fun. It gets the ADD brain going. But I thought this video is pretty good. Now, I haven't deep dove into him enough to really know his entire background, but you watch this clip, and it does really say what all of us Bitcoiners have been saying in about a minute or two. So I'm going to be very interested. I'll do a little more research on him, try to watch more of his videos. But if the guy is not going full Bitcoin and he's making this content, like total missed opportunity. So quick little TikTok for you guys, but it's kind of bars.
Why don't our public schools teach that there was no federal income tax in America from 1776 all the way till 1913? We had a temporary tax imposed during the Civil War, and they tried again in 1894, but the income tax was ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in Pollock v. Farmers. And that is when Rockefeller got involved. The 16th Amendment that would change the Constitution was proposed by Nelson Aldrich, the father-in-law of John D. Rockefeller Jr., the same guy that proposed the Federal Reserve Act. And of course, the Rockefellers would take over the tax system, the money printing system, the medical system, the education system, and became a driving force behind climate change narratives, to name a few things. But our kids aren't taught any of this in school. Instead, they're taught that Keynesian economic theory is correct, that increased taxes and increased government spending make a strong economy, and even the playing field with the rich, which is pretty convenient for a government education program. And pretty interesting, considering then they cement this ideological indoctrination into young people by making emotional arguments like, shouldn't we be able to feed the poor, shelter the poor, provide medical care to the poor, while leaving out the context that before 1913, America had the fastest growing middle class in the world. And what cities like Detroit were like back then compared to what they've become and why that is. But you tell me, who does the education system actually serve? And this is why I'm so into teaching real history, teaching financial literacy, because our kids will do great. We just have to teach them how the world works and what's truly possible.
We just have to teach them to stack Bitcoin, all right? No, but you know, actually, side comment before we kind of actually talk about this. The other day I was talking to Sophie, and me and Nico were sitting there, and I forget what we were talking about. It was some kind of Bitcoin stuff. And me and Nico are just like nerding out, right? And Sophie just looks like, you guys are such nerds. And for some reason, it just keeps sticking out to me because, yeah, maybe I wear glasses. Okay, I'm blind. All right, but I'm such a nerd when it comes to history and like finances and economics and macro, that's what interests me. I think that's the most interesting stuff going on in the world. I think it's one of the most important things that people should be kind of educating themselves on. And I'm not going to be like, you should, you know, go read the Creature from Jekyll Island. But like, this guy just did a 2-minute video basically explaining the Creature from Jekyll Island. And the Creature from Jekyll Island's like 700, 900 pages. It's huge. And it's like, I know I can't force on people that they should be watching these type of TikToks. Like, this can't compete with like a full brain rot, you know, TikTok video. But like, I'm just glad this guy's doing them because bite size, get that information out there. Obviously, more people should know this. And it is very interesting in just that little clip. It did remind me of what I played yesterday from Fernando. And I think we've all been through this. It's like, you come for Bitcoin because the number's going up, and you stay for the revolution. We say it all the time, but like, again, my new caveat, hey, we come for number go up, but something has to fund the revolution. We can't all just be broke here and think we're going to change the world because we're running a node and hodling some Bitcoin that's only at 60K. Hold your tomatoes. It is what it is. Like, we need to get richer. We need more power. We need more influence. Why is this a bad thing? Anyways, I digress. So few people even understand what's going on that you would love for stuff like this to really catch on and more people actually start to understand what's going on. But as I said, if he just ended that clip with like, this is why we buy Bitcoin, like, it sounded like Bitcoin stuff, because when you get into Bitcoin, one of the first things that you really have to go through, you know, you could say you unprogramming yourself from the matrix, you know, rewiring your brain, unlearning everything you've ever learned. There is a moment where you realize that everything that you've ever been taught is like basically a lie. Now, not everything, obviously, I'm generalizing, but you realize that most of your givens are wrong. And you could even go so far as say wrong intentionally. It's like that Big Short quote in the beginning. I think it's Big Short. Yeah, it is the Big Short. The Mark Twain quote, something like, you know, man, what is it? I'm blanking on what it is. Something about it's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you think you know that isn't that hurts you. And I think that's what's going on in the world. Most people think they understand how the worlds work. And I don't even claim to know exactly how the world works, but oh man, dude, I'm never going to live it down. Hold on. I don't even claim to know how the world works, but I think once you get back to a sound money, once you get like the Bitcoin fundamentals, once you understand that it's the money that's broken, you are better able to see the world, and you're better able to look through the lessons of history and understand, oh, I see why we currently are where we are. Like, we are the most productive society ever, and yet most of us are broker than ever. It's like, how do we have, you know, this insane amount of technology, and yet most people aren't living a good life? Like, most people are struggling. And I mean, I can pinpoint it. It's like we've seen the money expand, and yet wages aren't keeping up with it. Like, our wages do not keep up with inflation. We're seeing a lot of the, you know, quote, trickle down economics that was fed to us, that was supposed to work out, literally work in reverse, where all the money is funneled to the very top. Now, I'm not here to say that like I'm a what is a democratic socialist of America or anything like that. I'm like, no, I don't believe in wealth distribution. All I believe in is hard work and saving my money and doing what I can to protect myself. And if the system is broken, then maybe I should try something new. And maybe if it's all based around bad money, maybe I should find better money. If all of our problems are caused because of the dollar, yeah, then maybe I ditch the dollar and I sell my dollars for Bitcoin. But at this point, I'm so far down, you know, I'm so far gone that I had to relearn everything that I've ever thought I knew. And I didn't know much. Okay, 42 IQ clocking in. But this is the uphill battle that we're against. And I think this is why I keep railing against the same theme. That it's not so much, well, it's actually two things. One, either people just don't care. They just like their servitude. And two, maybe we just, and I'll do me, maybe I just needed to get better at talking about Bitcoin to people. I've been doing, ever since I even joined Simply, this has been the top of my mind. I'm like, how come people don't understand this? Like, if I can understand it, other people can understand it. But it really, I think, goes back to people just need to feel the pain. I think people are feeling the pain. And I think the pain is only going to increase. And then we'll get to a point where people want to change something, dude. Like, you need to feel the pain to want to change. And a lot of people, you know, kind of going back to the brain rot, are just walking in la la land off the cliff. And all we really want to do is just like shake them awake and be like, dude, it's not that hard. Just buy some Bitcoin. And I'm realizing kind of the irony of what I'm saying, because I played that TikTok video of like, oh, maybe, you know, maybe this will get to people. Obviously, no one would watch that. Only a nerd would watch that. And then I'm saying maybe we need to work on better content to get to more people. So I see the irony, you know, I see the dichotomy of that. But that is one of the things we will be working on here at Simply Bitcoin, is how do we make better content so that more people understand why we like Bitcoin, understand the problem that Bitcoin fixes, and understand how they get into Bitcoin. It's super simple. Just buy Bitcoin weekly, monthly, daily, take it into self-custody, and that's how we win. Anyways, I think I've ranted enough on this. Let's look at some numbers here in the US to really explain what I just said even further.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledin's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledin's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledin. If you ever thought, what happens to my Bitcoin if something happens to me? Or what happens if I lose my phone? You're not alone. For a lot of people, the biggest barrier to self-custody isn't buying Bitcoin. It's the fear of making a mistake. And that's why I like Bitkey, and I recommend it to my friends and family. Bitkey is a Bitcoin wallet built for real life. Not just for day one, but for everything that happens in between. Lost devices, upgrades, accidents, and long-term ownership. There's no seed phrase to write down and worry about losing. And no single point of failure that can lock you out of your Bitcoin forever. What really stands out about Bitkey is the peace of mind. Recovery is built in. Inheritance is built in. It's a complete self-custody system built by the team behind Square and Cash App, designed to make holding your own Bitcoin simpler and safer. Take self-custody of your Bitcoin today using Bitkey. Go to bitkey.world and use promo code SIMPLY for 10% off your new Bitkey. That's bitkey.world, promo code SIMPLY.
Alrighty then, guys, we're back. So the CPLie numbers, or CPLie numbers, came in better than expected. U.S. CPI inflation fell from 4.2 to 3.5, lower than the 3.8 expected, which, again, I don't know if you guys saw, but Kevin Warsh was in a hearing this morning. They kept asking him the same thing, like, is the Fed independent from the Trump administration? And he keeps saying the same thing, like, my main goal is to get inflation down, and it's not about politics. So he also said something like, the world's going to get very used to having low inflation here, and we'll get back on track. So it looks like they are building the consensus and the, I don't want to say truth, but they're trying to make the market feel like they have things under control. They're trying to set a precedent here. So even though, quote unquote, inflation is lower than expected, it's still above that 2% mark. And further, I think the thing that most people usually miss is it doesn't mean things are going to get cheaper. It just means that they're going to get less expensive slower. You can't put inflation back in the bottle. Now, why can't they put inflation back in the bottle here? Well, U.S. federal debt is now up to a record $39.4 trillion, rising $3.2 trillion over the last year. Since 2020, the U.S. federal debt is now up a massive $16.3 trillion. This marks a $2.5 trillion average annual increase, or $209 billion per month. At this pace, U.S. debt will surge to $50 trillion before 2030. Oh, dude, this is crazy. The U.S. debt crisis has no end in sight. Look, they can try to appease you with the inflation numbers of, oh, hey, look, it's down 3.5% this month. Basically trying to get the market to be okay with them lowering interest rates, because did I pull it up here? I think I did. We also saw this happen yesterday. The 30-year bonds at 5.1%. Essentially, for most, at least, consensus views that if the bond yields are around 5% for an extended period of time, it is not good for anyone, all right? Those are the scary levels. Though, since we haven't tested them in a long time, I think a lot of people would make the case that, hey, maybe we can deal with 5% bond rates. Maybe the economy is not like how it used to be. Maybe the bond market isn't how it used to be. Yeah. Wouldn't want to test it, okay? If the bond markets blow up, that's really, really bad for everyone. And then I saw Thomas Massey post something here, which is very interesting, and I think it might connect this all to me. At least it kind of connects the dots for me. Thomas Massey tweeted this. Thomas Massey on Twitter this morning: to fund an overextended empire, Roman emperors debase their currencies by diluting the precious metal content. Dude, man thinks of the Roman Empire. Rome. It's always on our mind. This week, Congress will vote to eliminate the penny, which was already mostly zinc since 1982. The same bill will allow the U.S. Mint to make nickels with cheaper metal. So it looks like we're about to no longer have pennies officially. Win $500 bill or $1,000 bill. Win $100 trillion Zimbabwe bucks. Here we go. Let's see. 5-cent coin, 5 grams with respect to such coin that is an alloy of copper and nickel, or between 4 and 6 grams with respect to such coin as described in subsection. Looks like destroying the penny. I don't know. It sounds like they are admitting defeat to hyperinflation. Now, here we go. Seizing production of 1 cent coin. Dude, maybe if we hoard pennies, the returns will be better than Bitcoin at this point. No. I find it interesting that this week, if this goes through, obviously nothing's happened yet, but if it does go through and Congress eliminates the penny for good, and at the same time, whether we like the Clarity Act or not, that fails, would that not be a little bit poetic? Like, all right, let's straw man this. I'm not gonna steal man. I'm gonna straw man it. Okay, they eliminate the penny, and the Clarity Act is everything we want it to be for Bitcoin. I did see Senator Lummis say that this in a few days they're going to get the new wording for the Clarity Act, and a lot of it's going to have a bunch of pro Bitcoin stuff in it. Bitcoin self-custody protections, developer protections, things that us Bitcoiners will be happy about. At least that's what she's saying on Twitter this morning. But let's say that is true. And the Clarity Act is good for Bitcoin. It's good for you as a Bitcoiner. And that fails next week, and it just keeps getting delayed, and then this week they eliminate the penny. It'd be so poetic in like a very sad way. It's like, okay, they're admitting hyperinflation is happening, and at the same time, they're basically delaying or trying to stop people from using Bitcoin, the only thing that would save people from the hyperinflation. What's the thing Elon Musk always likes to say? The funniest outcome is usually the one that would happen. I must have a dark sense of humor, because to me that's like hilarious. Let's admit hyperinflation is happening, and instead of allowing Bitcoin to flourish in the US, they stop it. They stop the bill that was supposedly going to allow that to happen. Big suppose, allegedly. But yeah, it's insane. And really, I think this goes into the TikTok video of so many people just have no clue how money works, obviously by design. They have no idea how crazy the national debt is, how debt even gets added to the national debt. It's just insane. It's truly insane, truly clown world. Actually, one last little caveat. I was watching John Adams, the HBO series over the weekend. It's really good. Highly recommend you go watch it. I'm kind of maybe it was because July 4th just happened. I'm like, man, I'm sick and tired of watching all this other Netflix stuff. Like, is there some cool founding fathers stuff? Like, is there some cool early America stuff? I watched the John Adams, and I remember one scene in particular. It's Alexander Hamilton talking with John Adams, and George Washington is at the table, and Thomas Jefferson is kind of going back and forth with Alexander Hamilton, and Thomas Jefferson basically says something on the lines of what they're trying to do, and he's like, wait, you want to have a national bank that would imply a strong centralized government, and now you're proposing a national army, which also would strengthen the centralized government. And he's like, I thought we're a nation of states here. Like, I thought we took one boot off from the king so that we didn't create another one with us being in charge now. And there was a point where Alexander Hamilton was basically saying to John Adams that, hey, if we want to have credit with, at the time it would have been France and Holland, he's like, what if we just take on all the states' debt? Because that would imply that the states would pay them, the central government, for the debt. And then we could take that debt and create credit. And it's just like, most people just don't understand. It's like, you will never pay off the national debt. They need that debt. That debt is how this whole system works. Whereas us as individuals like to pay off our debt, governments don't want to ever pay it off. They can't. If they paid off the debt, they would blow up their Ponzi. That's why I kind of find it ridiculous. And I love Senator Lummis, but I this whole like, we're going to use Bitcoin to pay off our national debt is like, no. If you pay off the national debt, the Ponzi blows up. That's just how the game was set up. You need debt. The system runs on debt. History's been telling us this for a very long, long time. It's, you know, it's not that hidden. It's just people think that, oh, it happened so long ago, it doesn't really relate to my life now. It's like, no, it really does. On that note, you should be buying Bitcoin and taking it into self-custody. This system cannot be fixed from within the system. It's either the system's broken or it was designed this way. Pick your poison. But preferably, I would like to, you know, flip the chessboard, and I will use Bitcoin. I will save in Bitcoin. I will partake in the bimetallism era where I will use government coupons, government cuckbucks to, you know, pay for things and consume. And I will hoard the Bitcoins until more people realize what's going on. And of course, I'll use Bitcoin when, you know, whenever I see fit. I'm only going to hoard it. It's my money. It's my money. I can use it how I want. What's that one commercial? Is it Aflac? Was it Aflac? I don't know. Anyways, we're going to have a little fun at the end of this show. You guys know, I love the 1 minute chart. Well, guys, someone might have just vibe coded the best website ever. It's actually amazing. All right. My new favorite site. Here we go.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy across 3 continents, HIVE runs dual engines, Bitcoin mining and AI compute. Their AI platform is ranked #1 in the world for network performance, and it's doing something bigger than compute. It's accelerating human discovery, the science, the breakthroughs, pushing humanity further and faster. Listed on the NASDAQ with the ticker HIVE. Catch the latest buzz at HIVE Digital Tech on X or HIVEdigitaltech.com.
You secured your Bitcoin, but did you secure your devices too? They're still broadcasting your location and digital footprint. GPS, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell, 5G, EMF, all of it is leaking. Escape Zone fixes that. Their Faraday bags block every signal your device emits, so you decide when you're detectable, not the grid. Built for Bitcoiners who know sovereignty isn't just your wallet. It's your phone, your hardware wallet, your keys, and your entire digital life. Go to escapezone.com/simply and use code simply for 10% off. That's escapezone.com/simply, code simply. Oh, no, sorry, guys. Sorry. This is funny. Dr. Daniel Hada. Opti claims a 42 IQ to hide the truth. It's 142. Dude, doubtful. I've never taken an IQ test, to be fully transparent. 142 seems a little high for me. I'm left side of the right side of the bell curve. Okay. So I don't know what's that, like 125, 130. That seems good. You know, maybe 120. Okay. I'm above average. Okay. 142 is crazy. I'm not that smart, but maybe that is my genius. I'm at the, actually, before I get into, we're just gonna chat here a little bit. I am gonna bring up this website, but did you ever see that meme where it was like the levels of IQ, and it was like, you know, left side of the bell curve, it's like IQ hell, like you're an idiot, you're gonna be poor forever. And then it's like the midway, and it's like IQ hell, you're a midweight, you think you're smart, but you're really an idiot. And then it's like the right side of the bell curve, and it's like IQ hell, like you're too smart and you're living in a world with a bunch of idiots. And then there's like a sliver with between, like, I think it's 120 and 135, where it's like IQ heaven. It's like, well, you're smart enough to be successful. You're smart enough to know you're not too smart. You're smart enough, but not too smart, so you are like antisocial. If anyone knows that meme, that's like my favorite meme. I'm right there. I'm at IQ heaven, where I'm smart enough to, you know, get what I want in life, but I'm not too smart to really dread my existence. I think it's like 125 to 135. I think that's what it was. Me and Nico used to laugh about that all the time. Anyways, my wig. This is not a wig. All right, guys. Do I need a haircut? It is. I kind of like it long, but it's so hot down here. I can't. All right. I'll get a haircut. Maybe not this week. Maybe next week. My wig. That's crazy. All right. Anyways. Guys. This is personally to me. I know, again, I'm going to nerd out, but this is like the coolest thing that's ever been vibe coded ever. You guys know I love the 1 minute chart. And if I explain my reasoning for the 1 minute chart, it's basically this website where the reason I like watching the 1 minute chart, I do not recommend you trade the 1 minute chart. I don't even recommend you look at the 1 minute chart to try to get, you know, some real information about what's going on with the Bitcoin price long term. But the reason I love the 1 minute chart is because you can see the bulls and the bears fighting in minute candles. If it's a green candle, the bulls are in control for that minute. If the very next minute it goes down, it's the bears are in control. And you can see them literally wrestling or being at war on the 1 minute chart. That's why I kind of turned it into a meme. Well, guys, what do you use on your hair? Nothing, dude. Nothing at all. Occasionally, like some sea salt spray, some clay when I need to make it nice. But check this site out, guys. Check this out, okay? Go to bitcoin-battlefield.pages.dev. And they have turned the 1 minute chart into a war battlefield. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen ever. I'm such a nerd. The buyers are currently winning right now. But you can see the Bitcoin price as I imagine the 1 minute chart price. It is a battlefield. The bears versus the bulls. And nah, 42 IQ accurate. Yo, Java man, chill, bro. Pause. Something. Dude, you guys love the hair. All right, you guys love the hair. All right, 1 minute chart battlefield. It's so awesome, dude. Actually, here. Oh wait, sorry, I need to do that. Let's turn this down. You can hear the gunshots and. Whoa. Dude, it's so dumb. It's so dumb. I love it though. The battlefield. This is what we're looking at on the 1 minute chart, okay? This is the new industry standard for price action. Dude, the bears are just getting cooked. So dumb. It is so dumb. I love it. I love it. But there is something to be said about it. Like that's what the TA is basically showing you. Like it is a battlefield. Bears are either winning or the bulls are winning. You zoom out far enough, the bears have been winning for the last 9 months. You zoom out even farther, Bitcoin bulls are winning. You do not want to take the opposite side of Bitcoin not succeeding year after year after year after year and decades, etc. Yes, there's time where Bitcoin doesn't do good, but this is such a good visual. Shouts out to Nick Greenwald. I don't know what the $1 million toilet is, but dude, vibe coding is actually chill. All right. We'll just leave this up. 1 minute battlefield chart, guys. Although soldiers need to be replaced with whales and shrimps. That would actually be cool. I was thinking it's like bears and bulls attacking each other. You know, the bulls like hitting up and the bears swatting down like that. Someone vibe code that. It is on max chaos. It didn't really do much. Oh wait. No. Yeah. I had it on max chaos. 1 minute battlefield chart. Dude, we're such... My mic is messed up. No, dude, I think that popping is... Wait. It's from this. Here, I'll turn it off. Okay. Is it better, Chef Tommy? Dude, that was the site, dude. Opti, find the most heroic battles in history on the 1 minute chart. Oh, maybe I should go back to Netflix. All right. Anyways, guys, the carnage is too much. Dude, the Bears are getting cooked. The Bears are getting cooked. That's a shooting note. All right, guys. Anyways, enough trolling, wasting your time. You already know the deal. Should be Opti versus Ego. That's funny. Dude, if that were the case, the Bulls would always be winning. It would be at 10 million right now. It'd just be like, you know, what is that one? The Sock and Boppers? Is that what it's called? Sock and Boppers? I'd just be constantly busting the, wait, pause. Can't say that. Yeah. All right. Okay. I think it's time for me to get off the show. I'm going absolutely insane. Guys, you already know the deal. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with me. Would be sad if I had to hang out on this alone forever, every single day. That would be my personal hell. But you already know the deal. Actually, guys, we are locking back in. I know we were supposed to lock in for summertime, but we are back on the lock in. All right. I'm locking back in. I'm getting back on my walks. I was getting a little lazy for a while. I think the price and work was getting to me. I was just sitting there watching Netflix. No, we're working out. We're eating in a calorie deficit. We're getting some sun. We're getting our 10K steps in every single day. We're calling our loved ones. And of course, we are buying some Bitcoin and taking it into cold storage. This is the way. What's the link to that? Here, I'll drop it again for you. New music. I put it in the chat a little higher. So awesome. I'm such a nerd. All right. Anyways, I truly am tired. This is where we are at. Honestly, instead of Doge, you got Army Men game. Yeah, dude. I think there is something to this. Country Club Hillbilly, before I sign off, I think there is something to this. Like, me and Nico have been talking about this on the show. I've been talking to a lot of my friends, and even like my most hardcore friends, we're all tired right now. You know, I know a lot of people will say like, "Oh, I don't care about the price, man," but we're all just like, man, is there light at the end of the tunnel? And that to me just shows that we might be bottoming. All right. Again, maybe one last push down, but like, this is clear signs of the end of a bear market. When we're all just like, I'm so beat. I am beat up. That's when we know we have bottomed. So I think we're there, guys. I think we're there. Obviously, we still have about like 2-ish months, 3 months until we know for sure. But just keep stacking. Keep bettering yourselves as a person. Keep bettering your lives. Keep bettering your financials. This is how we win. This is not a short-term victory. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. That's why I keep saying, mentally steel your mind for this to be a long, long battle. It's going to take a while. But we're here for the fight. We're here for the long run. Anyways, guys, on that note, I will see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. I'll see you on the front lines tomorrow, as Java Man likes to troll me. Peace out, guys.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.